but I'm really glad you're here. You will be staying for tea, won't you, after coming such a long way?
I suppose we'll stay for a little while, to rest the mare.
And how are you today, Anne?
I'm as well as can be expected. Thank you.
Well, I'll go get the tea. I'll just be a moment. I made some of my special cardamom cake. Marilla, shall I slice it for the tea?
That would be just fine.
Good then. If you'll excuse me, you two just make yourselves at home.
You'll enjoy the cake. Mrs. Spencer is one of the best bakers on the island.
I'm quite sure she's a wonderful woman. Her hair is such an attractive golden color. Did you ever know anyone whose hair was red when they were young, but got to be a different color when they grew up?
No, I don't know that I ever did. And I shouldn't think it likely to happen in your case either.
Well, that is another hope gone. My life is a perfect graveyard of buried hopes. I read that sentence in a book once, and I say it to myself whenever I'm disappointed and need comforting.
I can't see where the comforting comes in myself.
Why? Because it sounds so nice and romantic, just as if I were a heroine in a novel. I find my life much easier to tolerate if I can imagine I'm a heroine in a novel.
Since you're so fire-bent on talking, why don't you talk to some purpose by telling me what you know about yourself?
Oh, what I know about myself isn't really worth telling. If you'll only let me tell you what I imagine about myself, you'll find it ever so much more interesting.
None of your imaginings. Just stick to the bald facts.
If I must. My father and mother were teachers, poor as church mice, but ever so in love. I was born to these lovely people. Miss Thomas, a neighbor, said I was the homeliest and scrawniest baby she'd ever seen. But my mother said I grew up to be a great beauty.
I'd imagine.
Mother died when I was only 3 months old, and father passed on 4 days later. I am sure it was because he could not bear to be parted from his one true love, and not because he meant to leave me alone in this world. I went to live with Miss Thomas until I was 8, and helped her with her children. She had 4 of them, all younger than me. When Mr. Thomas was killed, Mrs. Thomas went and lived with her sister, and she couldn't take me. Finally, Miss Hammond from upriver came down and said she could use a girl who was handy with babies. You see, she had 8 children, twins, 3 times. Now, I like babies in moderation, but 3 sets of twins?
Does seem kind of extreme. Were the Hammonds good to you?
They meant to be good people, the Hammonds, but Mr. Hammond drank a great deal, and Mrs. Hammond's temper was short, with all those babies and all. I'm sure they would have liked to have been.
I see.
When Mr. Hammond was killed in the mill accident, Mrs. Hammond gave the children off to relatives. They wouldn't take me, and she set off for the States. They almost wouldn't take me at the asylum, but they had to. There was nowhere else for me to go. Finally, Miss Spencer came to bring me to you, and Green Gables. You must love it so.
I do. We do. My brother and I have lived here ever since we were born.